You may be wondering how this child got here or where his parents are. His father had left for work, and his mother was twerking for our fans on TikTok Live. What would happen to this poor child? Read this fascinating story to find out. Imaid was the talk of our neighborhood in Wari. She had perfect skin, a captivating smile, and long black hair that fell down her back, but more than her beauty, people noticed her obsession with social media. She spent hours creating the ideal content for TikTok and Instagram, living up to the motto, "Fake it till you make it." Every day she would borrow clothes from her friends, buy pricey shoes from a cousin, and even pose in front of cars that weren't hats in order to create the ideal TikTok post. She wanted to appear successful, even though the life she presented online was far from real. Mama M, her mother, observed her daughter's increasing fixation with TikTok and how she began to prioritize content creation over other facets of her life. One evening called him as she was getting ready to go out and take more pictures. My daughter Mama M began in a soft but same voice. "I'm not saying you should not be doing social media, but the way you are going about it is not right. You lie through your teeth and you live a fake life. That is not how your father and I raised you." I M sighed, already annoyed by the conversation. "Mama, it is not social medium, it is social media," she corrected. "And in this business you need to fake it till you make it. How will people trust your BR if you don't give them what they want to see? Appearance is everything. No one cares about the truth. They care about what they want to see." My M shook her head, her heart heavy. "That is not the way, my daughter. What if they discover your lies one day? Will they still trust your brand? My daughter, try to do other things with your life while you are still young, because this one no be way at all." I M roll her eyes, dismissing her mother's advice. She was convinced that one viral TikTok video or one perfectly curated Instagram post will change her life forever. A few days later, as she was posing outside a fancy restaurant dressed in a borrowed designer gown and heels, she spotted a sleek black car. It was the perfect backdrop for her next post. I M quickly rushed to the car, striking a pose as if it were hers, instructing her friends to take picture without an ounce of care in the world. Just as she was about to round up, a young man approached her. He was tall, handsome, and with confident, easygoing smile. His name was Jaden. "Excuse me," he said politely. "That car you are posing with, it's mine, and I really need to go right now." I M froze, her face turned PED as she realized that she had been caught. The embarrassment was overwhelming and she didn't know whether to run or stay, but instead of being angry, the man chuckled softly. He was smiting by the sight before him. "My name is Jaden," he said, extending his hand. "And you am?" She replied nervously, her heart racing, mortified with embarrassment that day. They exchanged contact, and after a few weeks of chatting and texting, they became closer. Few months later, Jay proposed marriage to a M, and she was overwhelmed with happiness. She couldn't stop pausing with her expensive diamond engagement ring. "Hi guys, my man just proposed and I said yes. I'm so happy. I'm going to be spending the rest of my life with my best friend." She would say news of Jaden's engagement reached his parents. Mr. and Mrs. Prier, they were not happy with their son's choice of a life partner. "Son, I know you're an adult, but we think you are making a very big mistake, marrying that girl. She's always online dancing. How can such a woman make a good wife and raise good children?" Mrs. Prier said with worry, head on her face. "Mom, relax, you don't know. I am like I do. She's not all about social media, she has other great personalities too," Jaden said. "Trying to defend his woman personality is like my son. There's nothing good to write home about her." "You should reconsider your choice," Mr. PRI said, but all their advice fell on deaf ears. Jaden was head over heels for IM, and he didn't mind that she was always online. He believed that she would make the right adjustment when they get married. Jan's friends, too, tried to advise him about his choice for a wife, but he ignored them, and after months of insisting on marrying IM, his family finally gave in and they got married. The wedding was all over social media. IM couldn't stop gushing over a marriage to a handsome rich man like Jaden. She took photos of them pausing together every minute of the day, updating her social media in-laws. She was living a dream life married to a dream man, living in a dream home. Her life was just perfect just after their marriage. Things were going fine for both Ahmed and Jaden. IM's social media account started getting more attention online as her followers increased tremendously, but that meant she had to be more active online and spent longer hours on her phone. But Jaden didn't mind, he was still enjoying the bee of newlywed. But after a couple of months, he got tired of the routine. He felt like he was living his life for strangers. He had always wanted a quiet home where he could raise his children, but what he had with Ahmed was far from it. Things started going south when Ahmed started getting busier with her content creation, neglecting the home and his needs. Whenever he tried to communicate with her, she would tell him to get a maid to take care of the house. CHS one day, Jayan returned from work. After a hectic day, he was hoping to get one meal and a cold shower, but what he met at home was chaos. IM was on TikTok, live dancing in the living room with clothes, shoes, and makeup littering the ground. Jaden was pissed, but he kept his cool. He didn't want to disturb our live stream session. He quietly dodged the camera angles and went to the kitchen to get something to eat. But when he got to the kitchen, the sight he saw almost drove him insane. The kitchen sink was packed with dye plates and PT from yesterday's dinner, with offensive smell oozing from the kitchen. Jaden went to the P to check if there was any leftover food for him to eat, but nothing IM didn't cook. She was too busy doing TikTok live stream, and Jaden's frustration boiled over. That evening, he confronted IM. "I have had enough of this, your social media Magnus. I have never stopped you from creating content, but you can't neglect our home like that. What if my friends were coming home with me, and they find the whole house messy, and you are dancing on TikTok?" "I didn't sign up for this," Jaden said with anger. "Oh, I think you signed up for this. You knew I was a content creator before you married me. I am an influencer. You can't expect me to be doing dishes and sling away in the kitchen. If you want a clean home, get a maid." That night, after a heated argument, IM packed all of her clothes into a suitcase and threatened to end the marriage. Jaden was taken aback by reaction, but he quickly held her clothes and apologized for raising his voice. A few months later, IM became pregnant, and Jaden was thrilled that they were finally starting a family. He hoped that with their child on the way, IM would become more responsible for their home for a few weeks as social media activities decreased, which pleased Jaden, who felt that he was finally maturing and learning to prioritize what was more important. But his hopes were dashed when Ahmed resumed that content creation with more intensity. Just like I never left. Pregnancy journey. Motherhood in a beat. She danced with her baby bump every day and ignored all Jaden's advice to rest and take care of herself and their baby. Anytime Jaden tried to correct her, she would get angry and pack her clothes and leave the house to go stay with her friends for a few days, until Jaden would come and beg her. A few months later, they had a beautiful baby boy named Jaden Jr. His presence brought a moment of peace and love in the family IM, and Jaden were both elated to have a perfect son, and their relationship with God's strength from constant fights over the past couple of months got mended, and they basked in the joy of parenthood. But the peace and quiet didn't last, as Ahmed couldn't stay away from her social media fans for too long. She resumed the TikTok activities, sometimes neglecting the new baby Jaden had tried to talk to her, but all his complaints fell on DEA ears. One day, Jaden returned home to find their son crying Ling on his crib. He was hungry and his diaper was sewed, but Ahmed was nowhere in sight. When he searched for Imad in the house, he couldn't find her. Jayan picked up his son with tears in his eyes. He changed his diaper and fed him, and Junior fell asleep as he stood there staring at his son sleeping soundly. He couldn't help but regret his decision to marry a social media addict. "I'm sorry, son, for not choosing a better mother for you. My parents were right, she's never going to change," he emmed to himself hours later. IM walked into the house without an ounce of care in the world. Jaden glared at him with anger on his face. "Where have you been?" Did you forget you're a mother now? How could you leave a baby unattended to just like that?" he said, yelling, "Calm down, honey. He was sleeping when I left, and I didn't go far. I was shooting a video by the poolside. It's not that deep." A maid replied. Jaden was shocked and irritated by what she had just said, but he was tired of arguing or talking as he didn't have any effect on IM. A few days later, he had a nanny for Jaden to take care of him since IM was always busy creating content for the next couple of days. Things went well, and there was peace in the house, but things went Sue when one day the nanny told a maid she was going to the supermarket to get formula for Junior. "Ma, please. I want to quickly go to the supermarket to get some supplies for Junior. I'll be back in an hour. Help me watch Junior." The nanny said, "What do you mean? He's my son." "You can go," Imaid replied shortly after the nan left. Junior fell asleep in Imad's arms. She carefully laid him on a baby bed in the living room, and as Junior slept soundly, Imaid admired her son stroking his head softly with a smile on her face. But after a moment she became bored with nothing to do. She was alone in the house with her baby who was sleeping soundly. She decided to take the chance to quickly shoot a content at the poolside for TikTok before Junior would wake up. She quietly left her son in the living room, and she went to the poolside and set up a ring light to create content. But after a while, she got carried away, and before she knew it, she was on TikTok livestream, dancing away, unbeknown to her that Junior had woken up to the sound of music and dancing. He crawled to the poolside looking for his mother, but IM was lost in her world of dancing, that she didn't even notice that her son was crawling towards the pool filled with water that day. Jayan returned home from work earlier than usual. When he entered the house, he couldn't find anybody. He was about to go upstairs to Junior's room when the sound of music caught his attention. It was coming from the poolside. Jaden decided to go check out what his wife was doing this time around. When he got there, the sight he saw nearly knocked breath out of him. Junior was in the pool struggling with his hands and feet to gasp for hay while his mother was twerking to a song on TikTok. Jaden jumped into the pool to save his son. He brought Junior out of the water and tried to resuscitate his tiny body, but the poor child wasn't responding by this time. I finally noticed the chaos going on. She rushed towards Junior, screaming out in terror, but Jaden pushed her away and quickly rushed his son to the hospital. IM was distraught. Her word came crashing down. Her son had drowned because of her carelessness. "What have I done?" she wailed bitterly. "What do I do now?" She quickly called her parents and told them what had happened, and they rushed over to our house. "I told you this social medium thing will cause you more harm than good, Imaid, but you didn't listen." "How can you be so careless, Mama?" Imaid said, shaking her head with tears streaming down her face. Sat on the floor in the living room crying and praying for good news from my husband, but after hours he returned home with tears streaming down his face. You are evil. I regret the day I met you. Pack your stuff and leave this house. This marriage is over." Jaden said, "Honey, please." "What happened to her son?" Imaid tried to ask as tears streamed down her face. "You killed him. Imaid, with your social media obsession. The doctor said he couldn't make it, that I go to the hospital too late." Jaden dropped the bombshell. IM collapsed on the floor crying bitterly. She regretted all her actions. She lost sight of what was more important to her now. She was in agony that day. Jaden threw all Imad clothes outside the house with pain in his heart, and Imaid went home with her parents where she cried day and night, regretting her life. Her sweet son was dead, and she was responsible. Days passed, and IM couldn't eat or sleep as Gil her up from inside. Her parents tried to console her, but the pain inside her heart was too big to ignore. As she was laying on the floor crying, her mother came in and told her that Jaden was looking for her. "Why, Mama, has he come to finish me up for what happened to her son? Mama, tell him I'm sorry." Mother said, crying, "Well, my daughter, you can tell him you are sorry by yourself and someone else is here to see you too." Mama said as she left the room. "Who could that be?" muttered to herself as she hid. She dragged herself from the ground with all her might and went to the living room to go see who it was that wanted to see her. When she got to the living room, she was shocked to see her baby kicking and playing. "But how? I thought you said he couldn't make it." IM said, crying bitterly. "Well, you needed to know what was more important to you, if it is your family or your social media, and I hope you already know the answer." Junior was resuscitated immediately. I got to the hospital. The doctor said that we were lucky that we got there on time, else he would have died. I can't say I'm not angry at you, but Junior needs his mother. That's if you are still interested in being a mother. Jaden said, Yes, I'm sorry, honey. I promise I would never neglect your or son ever again. I have learned my lesson. I will never lose sight of what is more important. ever again." Ayam swore as she begged her husband. She vowed to change and become a better wife and mother. Her parents stared at their daughter with smiles on their faces. She had had it rough this couple of days when she thought that Junior had died, and they hoped that she would change for the better. Jaden took his family home that day, with his heart full of expectations from his wife. Months passed, and Ayam became a changed person. She became more responsible in their home, never neglecting her family for social media. Glory. She still did her content, but she dealt with her obsession and drew a line between social media and reality. The lesson here is that, while content creation is good and supports millions of content creators worldwide, we should never lose sight of what matters most to us while we are chasing the bag. Thank you for watching, and if you are still watching this video at this point, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and remember to give it a thumbs up. Until I bring you another juicy and fascinating story, goodbye for now.